Oysters are an acquired taste, but an oyster farmer, well, that's something special altogether. Today at Clausen Oysters, I've got my work cut out for me, but it's sure to be a shell of a good time. We're traveling the state to learn how people stay safe in their weird and wonderful jobs. I'm Corey Jenkins, and this is Oregon Odd Jobs. Down on the southern coast in North Bend is the company of Clausen Oysters. And when oyster farming is your business, your workday isn't set by the time, it's set by the tides. You see, somewhere out there in the bay, there's a whole patch of Clausen-owned oysters that need harvesting. But that can only happen when the tide is out. And today, the tide was out early. Really early. And so, before the sun had crested on the horizon, we strapped on our boots, headed down to the boat, made sure our personal flotation devices were secure, and began our journey to find the oyster beds. This is Chris, a former Kentucky farmer who found his true calling out west on the mudflats, and he was going to teach me the ways of an oyster farmer. But our first challenge was figuring out how to get to them. Each day, the water channels change, and you can get stuck further away than you'd like to be, like we did. And when trying to rock the boat over the high spots didn't work, we dropped anchor, geared up, and started the long walk through the thick mud. My inner 8-year-old is so happy right now. It's the world's biggest mud puddle. This is awesome. We walked for quite a while until we finally started seeing some oysters on the ground. So how long do these grow out here?
All right, these have been out here right at 3 years.
3 years.
Yep. Not out here, but from the moment we get them as larvae,
yeah,
and set them on the shell, that's kind of when I start the clock on them. Now, each set of poles is basically a box. From one pole to one pole is a big square box. And I planted a set of seed, and then another set, another set, another set. So by the time we finish with this one, the next one's in line, and so on and so forth.
At this point, it was time for my initiation, as Chris tried to find the perfect oyster for me to eat, straight from the bay. Bottoms up. Yeah, there's some sand in there too.
Oh yeah, yep.
From there, we headed to the patch we were hunting for.
Let's pull from anywhere.
Okay.
We can just set the basket down and go to town.
And with a mark on the GPS, we went to work.
Scatty don't matter, pull everything. We want it cleaned. We'll just do that.
Each cluster had about 5 or 6 oysters on it. As I pulled, I found myself very thankful for the gloves I was wearing, as each of the shells could be extremely sharp. Normally, when a basket is full of oysters, it gets dumped into one of these brailers, and as the tide comes in, a barge will come out and pick them up. Unfortunately for us, the barge was busy elsewhere today, so we had to make the long walk back to the boat ourselves. Our trek back felt significantly longer now that we were carrying a basket full of oysters. But thankfully, through teamwork, Chris and I were able to slowly slosh through the mud, trading sides as needed, and finally, we made it back to the boat. With a quick rinse of the oysters, we were pulling anchor and setting off once again, this time to find the barge, parked out by the tipping lines. Jerry Ann here was kind enough to explain what tipping lines are.
Well, we get single seed, we put them in bags, and we grow them off bottom. They have a different shape and flavor, a lot less mud inside of them, cleaner meat.
So the oysters start in the bags hang on the lines, and in high tide, the floats help the oysters to tumble in the bags, giving them a nice round shape. So, what were we going to do today?
We're going to take our oysters in the bags and we're going to walk them out there and clip them on their lines. And then we're going to pull an order. We have an order for the deli going for a couple of days, so we're going to grab about 25 of their bags, take them to the shop and sort them.
Sort them. Perfect. Sounds good.
Yep.
And so began one of the hardest work days of my life. The task was simple. Grab the bags, clip them to the lines, and go back for more. The danger? Getting stuck in the mud. If you don't keep moving, It's easy to sink in and hard to get out. Honestly, one of the weirdest tripping hazards I've ever seen. As we worked, I couldn't help but notice the rising water levels. The tide was coming in quickly, and while that did make for a looming deadline, we were able to use it to our advantage, floating some of the bags closer to the lines so we didn't have to walk as far. Although now, we were wading through even deeper water and soupier mud. The work never seemed to stop. Load by load, and bag by bag, we carried on. Oh, these are heavier. Why is nobody else sweating like I am?
Oh, we are.
Well, you hide it so well. Mine's just all right here. Eventually, the boat was loaded up with 75-pound bags of mature oysters for the deli. The tide was in, the job was done, and it was time for a victory oyster. We took the barge back to the shop, and once we arrived, we attached the bags that we pulled from the tipping lines to a line on the dock and put them back in the water, waiting to be sorted later in the day. Next up was shucking. Remember that basket of oysters we pulled earlier? Well, it was up to these gentlemen to open them up and get them ready to sell. And I was going to join them, with Jerry Ann's help.
Okay, so we have a hinge here. So we break in here, kind of break a little hole there, go along the bottom of the shell, break the mussel,
Wow.
flip it, and you shuck the mussel.
Wow. My first attempt didn't go well.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
And neither did my
Pop it up.
second.
There you go.
Well, perhaps sorting was more my speed. The oysters were piled on the table. Our job was to separate out the garbage from the good stuff. We were looking for oysters just the right size. Too small, and they would go back in the bags and back to the tipping lines to grow. Again, the gloves were essential to avoid getting cut and pinched by crabs that had joined the mix. As our pile depleted, our basket grew until Chris came to grab me and show me how the whole oyster process gets started. You see, in these vats are the oyster babies, and it was feeding time. Okay, so talk us through this.
Well, this is actually a pretty simple process right now. We're just going to pull the tarps off, and those spouts that come down, I got valves behind them, a couple on top. We'll just turn them on and let them feed for a good 20, 30 minutes.
Lifting off the first tarp, I wasn't sure what I would see inside. Turns out, it's a bunch of oyster shells in bags.
And this is a tank full of seed. Ah, sweet, come here. You can see the larvae attached to them. It's a little tannish speck with a little even tinier black speck in it. Those are tiny baby oysters.
So, what happens is, previously shucked shells cure out in the sun, then are put in bags, and the bags are put in the tanks, 200 each, along with about 3 million larvae looking for a home. The shells in the bags are called the mother shells, and it's these that the larvae attach to and grow on. And, as we saw before, more than one can grow on a mother shell. So, what do baby oysters eat? Seawater. Specifically, the algae from the seawater. It gets pumped straight from the bay into the tanks, which we were going to do now. One by one, the tarps were pulled, and the valves were opened. Some a little harder than others. But the important thing was, the tiny baby oysters were getting fed, soon to be taken out in the wild, and eventually harvested, as the process continues, day by day and year by year. What do you enjoy about coming to work here every day?
Well, that's it. I actually enjoy coming to work. Everything about this job is very intriguing and interesting. It's both sides of farming can join, so it's animal and plant with water.
With water.
Wow.
If you're in an environment where like things change all the time, there's always problems, like how do you keep from getting hurt?
You just always watch everybody, watch your hooks, your cables, and if you just keep an eye on everything, you can warn people and just say, hey, stop that. It's kind of good.
Yeah, it's kind of good. So, what did we learn today? Well, the right PPE and tools can help protect you from hazards. Teamwork can make any job lighter, easier, and safer. And working with your environment instead of against it can help battle fatigue and exhaustion. From picking to shucking, oyster farming is hard work. So the next time you see that lovely little oyster on your plate, remember the folks here at Clausen, and the early mornings, and the mud, and the sweat. Yeah, it's been a long day. We'll see you next time on Oregon Odd Jobs.